Well, hello everybody again. This is me, Robert Sleds. I am doing a special program today. I haven't done it in a little while, so bear with me. I'm not going to be discussing anything concerning Catholicism per se, any doctrines or dogmas. Um, I'm going to be talking about a specific church that done some research on. Someone had asked me to do some research on to talk about with you folks. It's called the Churches or the Church of Christ. Don't confuse that with the Disciples of Christ, by the way. Both were one and the same at one time until some dissension arose in the ranks. And of course, the church that really wanted to start the whole restoration of, the early church and all the 2,000 years of history that were forgotten, they wanted to start all over again. So they started all over again. So in other words, they started in 1830, and then they restarted again. It's like a reboot. You know when you watch, when you watch a movie and you see a reboot of the movie, like the Death Wish, with Bruce Willis. Well, we all saw hopefully some of us have seen the Charles Bronson take on the Death Wish. Well, there's something called the new Death Wish with Bruce Willis now, okay? So what happened really was, instead of being called the Disciples of Christ and, wanted to restore the churches all over again, they hit a snag. So they had to split off again, and the Disciples of Christ went here, and the Churches of Christ went here, and the Churches of Christ claim that they continue to be part of the original restoration movement. In other words, they got it all. They got it set up. So I'm going to be discussing that with you right now. I'm going to be trying to give you a little bit of a synopsis on who, what, and when this church really got started. We're going to start with the actually the church's own website. It's better to always go to the horse's mouth, because you know what you get when you get bit in the butt. You basically get thrown all over the water, because they'll say, usually people will say, well, this is not what I believe. No, this is what I believe. No, that's not what I believe. Yeah, okay. Well, let's go take a look and see what the Churches of Christ believe. And let's decide, and you guys decide for yourself what you think I'm saying, whether I'm saying what I'm saying is true or not. All right. Now, this is probably going to take a little longer than normal. Normally, I go between 30 minutes to an hour. This is probably going to go an hour to 2 hours. Hopefully not 2 hours, all right? Well, the Articles of Faith I'm taking it from the Church of Christ, restored April 6th, 1830. See, I always thought it was 33 AD when Jesus started this church. The Catholic Church, the only one, there's no other. Apparently, someone got it wrong. Well, let's take a look and see who, huh? One thing I wanted to mention, 1830 was exactly when Our Lady appeared, the miraculous medal, the one we all popularized as the miraculous medal. I'll tell you a little history maybe afterwards. She appeared to a nun, St. Catherine Labouré, in 1830. You think it's a coincidence? Nah. You know why not? Because Our Lady also appeared during the Protestant Reformation when it began. Only this time she didn't appear in Europe. She decided to skip the European tour and go to Mexico. And we have her now as Our Lady of Guadalupe. Ain't that a kick in the butt? But it's true. Our Lady goes around trampling on the devil, trampling on heresy. So let's start, okay? The basic beliefs and articles of faith and practice by the Church of Christ. And I'll tell you why I'm doing this whole article. The purpose of this is basically to showcase for a friend. She's a nice gal. She asked me to kind of do this little thing for someone. I think you know who you are. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put their faith up front, okay, front and center. I'll intervene in the middle, and then we'll talk about the ramifications of this, okay, document, which you can find online. It's called The Church of Christ, restored April 6, 1830, not 33 AD, by the way. All right, so let's go on and get started here. The basic beliefs, and I'm not going to go through each one of them because I'd go nuts. I mean, there's just so many. I mean, I think you guys would be bored to death. By the way, you can grab that extra Bud Light because you'll be sitting there for a while. If I could magnify this, basically it says here that well, there's 1, 2, 3. I got an issue with number 4. It looks like 2 and 3 is pretty simple. Talks about belief in Jesus Christ, the only begotten Son. You believe that? Great. Then it talks about the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of truth, the Comforter. Nowhere does it mention deity. Do you know why not? I read a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of things to cover. I'm telling you, I could probably be sitting here for 5 hours if I had a pastor I could talk to. I'm looking forward to having one. I really am. It would be really good. I really would love to have. I would love to sit with the Church of Christ member, the person who is this video is being geared to, really, and then the pastor. We would have some show indeed, wouldn't we? That would be that would be biblical. I'm telling you. But let's go on, all right? So the thing that is interesting here is that in number 4 of the Articles of Faith and Practice, they say that we believe that men will be punished for their own sins and not for Adam's transgressions. So in other words, they don't believe in original sin. Everybody seems to be born immaculate. That's apparently what it is. Now most Protestants, I have to say, don't believe in, infant baptism either, because they believe infants can't sin personally. But if I ask them, are they born immaculately? I'm going to get no answer. And that's because it's obvious they're not. All right. So they need a washing. They need a cleansing. And the thing is that it's interesting because in general Protestantism, there's always the basic tenet that you have to know when you believe and speak with your mouth. You know that whole scripture passage? Believe and speak with your mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord. Hallelujah. Well, there's a lot more in the Bible than just that verse, I mean, every verse is set up for a different point. It's not just, for everything. Jesus had his own witness, which he said on other occasions, other things. But the fact of the matter is, in this number 4, Articles of Faith and Practice, they don't believe in they don't believe in original sin. Everybody's born immaculate. So that's number 4. And that's look. If you don't believe that you have original sin, what else can you have? Then there's no stain. You're pure. You're perfect. You're born with perfection. What else is there? I mean, come on, common sense. please. All right, so we're gonna go to we're gonna move along here. Number 5 talks about the blessing of children, laying on of hands. That's cool. Confirmation by the Holy Spirit. Hey, Catholics believe that. I can dig that. Healing of the sick. Great. But what is blessing of children? Well, that usually means that usually is inferred when you're not believing in something. You basically say blessing of someone, right? Well, that's okay. That, I can't really, figure out what that is unless I talk to one of these members and who believes in this. But from what I see, is it's basically a substitution for something else, which I think is baptism. But I can go on. There's an article here about, it's Article 7, okay? Says, we believe in the powers and gifts of everlasting gospel. They don't even know how to pronounce themselves. We're all in English. I have to tell you, a lot of things here when I'm reading, I don't know whoever was proofreading this, that they didn't really do a very good job of it, but that's okay. I don't really proofread my stuff very well either. So it says something about the word of wisdom, the word of knowledge, the gift of faith, the gift of healing. Okay, and okay. And then, of course, diverse, should be diverse kinds of tongues, interpretation of tongues. Well, that's okay. That basically means charismatic. I went to a charismatic group one time, and it did renew my faith. I was a teenager, and I went there. I didn't buy the whole bag, but I went there for a while, and it was good. See, in the Catholic Church, we have something called diversity of faith. And you can go to a healing mass, speak in tongues, with your hands up in the air, or kind of like this, I mean, any way you want to. There's different types of variations, but the same Lord is being worshipped. They do say that the churches are autonomous. How they're held together, I haven't discovered that part yet. That's kind of unclear. You have to donate 1/10 to the church, by the way. So be prepared that if you make a little more money than I do, you have to be prepared to, put a little extra on that plate. And that's not an option. Like us Catholics, sometimes we throw $3 or $5 or $10 or $20. Well, I don't know who puts $20 anymore, but if we put a few bucks in there, that's about all we do. No, Anyway, moving right along. I mean, I just want to go fast because there's about, to be honest with you, there are about 25. I think it says 25 tenets. I'm not going to go through each one. Most of them would probably bore you to death. Let's take a look at something here that I found that was particularly interesting. Believe in some organization, proposals, the highest office. One thing that I didn't quite understand, and one thing that it says that basically every person believes in the Church of Christ, that if you teach what the Church of Christ teaches, if you transfer that teaching to your family, you're basically teaching the same, under the same inspiration as the apostles. Yeah. Now that's where we get veered away from Protestantism into cultish thing, because public revelation ended, and I think this is pretty uniform. Public revelation ended with the last apostle John. Okay. Now that transmission of oral theology or oral um, truth continues. Continue, obviously, to this day. We have issues, we have to resolve them, but we don't claim that the public revelation um, remains. It's finished. Jesus, said his word. He is word. And, since Jesus is the word, he's got nothing else to say. He said it. 3 years of ministry, the apostles carried out the last remaining one, John. Nothing else. There's nothing else to say. The book is closed, really. The only thing is that we open up every age and we try to understand what it is that we need to learn and transmit to our families and kids so that they can understand. So basically, what that implies, the implication is control, manipulation. Those two factors will walk right in there, because if I can say that I speak for God, we could say the Pope doesn't speak for God. The Pope, in the Catholic Church, the Pope only has a prerogative of infallibility, very, very limited way. Only when he is discerning a doctrine, defining a doctrine. How do so defining a doctrine, just not something that you do every day. A doctrine is something that's already believed. Now, these folks believe that everything they teach, every time they teach it, it's infallible. It's always true. Well, if someone were to say that to me, I would kind of say, well, I'm kind of scared about that, because, hey, someone goes up to you and says, you can't be drinking beer tonight, or today, or you can't be going out with your friends, or you can't be visiting your family during Christmas time, Easter, the holidays. Then that means that there's something of a controlling nature here. So we already know baptism is not a necessity. It's not that they don't believe in it. It's just not necessary. So that means that your kids may not be. If you marry a Church of Christ member, be prepared that if you're a man, you got very little authority, very little to do with anything. That's why women usually want to get you into that altar real quick, because let's make it legal. Once it's legal, you could have 6 kids, and those 6 kids say "hasta la vista, baby." All right, it's gone. They don't get to see their grandparents if they're not of the same faith. Don't let them lie to you. It's not true. They can't see their grandparents. Not just go on for Christmas or Thanksgiving or Easter, anytime. The mother can say, who's Church of Christ, or the father. Well, really, I'm going to focus on the mother, because the woman has greater authority. If you get a divorce today, where do you think the kids stay most of the time? Think about that for a moment. And the kids are usually raised in the faith where the mother is, unless the mother's has some real problems, they have issues and stuff. But the thing is here, if the Church of Christ tells her, which she already knows, that you cannot take those children to see their grandparents, because, now you're probably wondering, why do you think I said that? Because they're Catholic. Guess what that means? How often do you think you're going to go see them? Did you ever think about that? So you have to think forward. You can't think in the present. Us guys, we look at a girl and we drop everything and that's it. Oh, well, we got to think a little stronger than that, much more forward and down the road. That's what dating is about. Discernment. I married it when I was 24. I had a little bit of a naivete. Of course, I married a Catholic in the end. I still had a divorce after that, but you know, why bother going into it? You can go to my profile and see that yourself. I don't hide anything. Um, you don't stay with someone who cheats on you. That's just the way it is. I mean, it's just, you know, we stay with each other based on trust, mutual trust. Well, getting back to this a little bit, you know, grandparents, you grandparents out there who are listening to this, you have a great deal to be scared about when it comes to religions like this. Religions like this are not like Jim Jones's People's Temple, that are destructive physically. They're destructive mentally. Okay. In other words, they will brainwash you. Well, not you probably, but they will brainwash the person they're with eventually to the point of where they succumb. Because look, if you have kids, you're not going to just leave those kids, are you? That would make you a pretty bad dad, wouldn't it? Sure would. So basically, you celebrate Christmas, Easter, Halloween. Oh, God forbid you celebrate Halloween and put that mask on that kid's head. Oh, man, God will strike you dead. I'm telling you. That's what this is the truth. And they'll tell you the same thing. If they can't, then they're lying to you. Um, but be that as it may, okay, everybody is entitled to their beliefs, but understand that water and fire do not mix very well. One overrides the other always. So grandparents, you have to get involved. Don't say, what kids can do whatever they want. No, well, they can't technically, but God gave them to you for a reason. Mothers, fathers, you got to get involved. Yeah, you can't just pass the buck. You pass the buck and you get into a lot of trouble. Thanks, Jonathan. I didn't expect that I was going to have this much of a success. You're making me feel like I'm the star here. Anyway, I'm getting back to this. I can't stop getting back to this because this is something you need to really think about. If any one of you, man or woman, marries, from a Catholic perspective, marries someone from the Church of Christ, you're bound to those doctrines of the Church of Christ from 1830. Come on, 1830? Seriously? Come on. I mean, even we can have a Bud Light and we can disagree about that. Come on. I mean, after 5 Bud Lights, I think we can disagree about that. I mean, when Jesus founds a church, you honestly think that he makes a mistake? They're basically telling you that Jesus made a mistake. They're basically saying that, you know what? There's been too many. There's a Coke to you. This is a G-rated show. I talk too much and I get dry. Jesus doesn't make a mistake. Read Matthew 16 to 19. Read it 100 times if you have to. Jesus founds the church on Peter. Peter, you are rock. Kepha. A stone that's huge. Stands firm. Immovable. Okay? It's immovable. In fact, you know where Jesus says, you are rock? I bet you didn't know that. I bet you're, the good girl, the good lady knows that, a good friend of mine, but I bet most of you don't know that. He said that at Caesarea Philippi. Now, in Israel, Caesarea Philippi is a huge, massive boulder of a place. I mean, it's I can't even call it a rock. It's so huge. It's maybe like about, I don't know, a mile long. Stands right in the middle. It's like a sword. It's like a sore thumb. There's nothing. You can't even do anything about it. You can't get rid of it. You can't, bulldoze it. That's what Jesus was driving at. He was driving a point. He was saying, "You are rock." Kepha. Kepha. Look it up for yourself. You don't believe me. And on this rock, Kepha, Peter, because that's the way the language goes. It's like me saying, they'll always point to Jesus. Oh, Jesus is the rock. Yeah, of course Jesus is the rock, but Jesus can share his rockship, just like he can share his mediation. And I'll talk about the mediatrix of Mary down the road. That's another topic for another day. Jesus can share his rockship. Yes, he can. God can share his, how do I say it? His properties. That's pretty big. God can share his own divine life with us. That doesn't mean that we're divine, does it? But he can share it. It's in the Bible somewhere, but like I said, always say, if I would be a good Baptist, I'd probably know all the verses. Unfortunately, I wouldn't make a very good Baptist. But folks, we need to take this seriously. Let me continue. Sometimes I can lose my train of thought. So when Jesus said, "This rock, I'll build my church," then he says, listen to the next verse. Very important. You got to start reading the Bible. You, right there. Yeah, you know who I'm talking to. I don't have to say it twice. Start reading your Bible. Go to verse 17. Chapter 16, verse 17 of Matthew. Go ahead, open that book. Don't be afraid. It ain't going to bite you. Jesus says, and he's not finished with just saying Peter is the rock. And then he says, and the gates of hell. It's pretty bad stuff. Hell, you don't want to be there. And the gates of hell will not prevail. Listen carefully what I'm telling you right now. This is God talking. Even though they don't mention Jesus as being deity anywhere in these books, because see, if it's not explicitly in the Bible, they don't really teach it. They don't want to say it, but they believe it. But they don't want to say it. I feel like I'm playing ping pong with my head. So let me finish my point here. As I said, the rock is Peter, but when Jesus says, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it, the church, that means that when he founded that church in 33 AD, it was there in 34 AD, 35 AD, 40 AD, 70 AD, 80 AD, 120 AD, 160 AD, 250 AD, 500 AD, 1100 AD, 1500 AD, yes, even 1600 AD, 1900 AD. Oh, by the way, I forgot 1830 AD. Yeah, the Church of Christ was there in 1830 AD also. That was before the churches of Christ called themselves the Church of Christ. Anyone can say that. That's playing word games, Just because the word Church of Christ is in the Bible, they're going to claim that that's their church. Really? Seriously? Come on. Really? Come on. The word church means ecclesia. It has nothing to do with anything but that. And by the way, if someone asks you, where is the Catholic Church in the Bible? I think that lady that I talked to, that friend of mine, she knows. I bet you she'll turn to you and tell you. Acts 9:31. So when this little girlfriend of yours or this boyfriend of yours who's a Church of Christ asks you, where is the Catholic Church in the Bible? Open it up. Don't be shy. It ain't going to bite you. Bible never bit me yet. It says the churches throughout. Gee, I wonder why they didn't use that term. Interesting. Because they're smarter than you are. You know what the churches throughout in Greek means? Katoles Ecclesia. Or, in English, the Catholic Church. Yeah, the Catholic Church is in the Bible, but they don't use that. Gee, I wonder why. You know, that stumps me. All right, so you folks know that part. But, you know, I want to elaborate a little more on the fact that Jesus says the gates of hell will not prevail against the church. He means the church. Why do you think it won't prevail? Well, first of all, what does that mean, does not prevail? Does not prevail means that hell will try. Hell will try. In fact, in the 4th century, there was a moment where the church was almost entirely 98% Arian. A priest called Father Arian spread that heresy all over the East, close to the steps of Rome, until the Pope, boom, bada bing, bada bam. Well, he wasn't the only one. We had Athanasius. We had a lot of very holy Eastern saints, very holy Eastern Catholic saints that really stood up and turned everything around. So there was never any kind of heresy that was overshadowed for 2 millenniums like the churches of Christ claim it was. Now again, I was never a Church of Christ. So if there's something that I'm missing, please, there's a post below, my friends of Church of Christ, correct me, please. And leave me your phone number or someplace where I can call you and PM you and we can have a little discussion. Because I'm curious why you didn't use that word instead. You use the word Church of Christ because that's in the Bible, but so is the church. The churches through the church throughout, which means the Catholic Church. You don't use that in the Bible. You don't use that from the Bible. I'm curious about that. That really, really makes me very, very particularly curious. Let's not stay on that subject alone. As I said, you parents have to be very vigilant. If your child is messing around with someone who belongs to this religion, and you're a Catholic, God's going to have something to tell you down the road, as well as everybody. Now, this sweet friend of mine, one day, I hope this person will be very, very grateful and maybe kiss the feet of this sweet lady for helping get this video going. Because I don't think I've even scratched the surface of this. See, if you can control who you go to see and when you go to see them, you think that's all they're going to control? How about where your money goes? Savings. How about where you spend your money? Hey, I'm going to go out with my friends tonight. No, you're not. What are you going to do then? You slam the door and find yourself locked out of the house? Cause a ruckus? In the end, you know what's going to happen. She's going to take the children, and hasta la vista, baby, you're done. And that's how your life becomes crippled. So I'm trying to help you, okay? I'm reaching out to you. I want you to understand social cults confuse, infect, manipulate, and control. Most important of those are manipulate and control. You know, when I was a little kid, my grandmother, she dressed up my brother. She took my brother. I think my brother was about, I don't know, 7 and I was 8, or no, I was 9, or he was 6 and I was 8. I don't even remember. I remember the very first grade, I dressed up as Batman. My brother dressed up as Superman. It was incredible. She took us into the shop, and we had a blast. Candy, whew. Well, you know what? Your kids ain't going to have even a zing of that. It's all devil. It's all demonic. Sure, Halloween has its demonic roots, but that doesn't mean that a holiday named after it necessitates those roots. First of all, Christmas and Easter are based after demonic feast days of the pagans. Does that make Easter and Christmas demonic? Did you ever ask yourself that question? Of course not. Once you change a holiday to something else, it's no longer the same thing. It's obvious. That's like me changing, it's like Jesus, for instance, which they don't believe. Changed the, well, he changed water into wine at Cana. They obviously believe that. That's in the Bible. When he changed, picked up the bread and said, "This is my body." Now, some will say, well, is doesn't mean is. I feel like I'm listening to Bill Clinton speak again. Is isn't is because it isn't. Or is because it is. Is not? Yes, it is. Well, you know what? It is. That's really the bottom line. The bread and wine is changed to the physical body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ. Every time you go to Mass, by the way, when you get married, you may not have to go to that church. No one's going to force. Oh, I don't even know that. I don't know a lot of details. I'm learning. I'm learning. When you start going to that church, forget about the Catholic Church. See, I can go and visit, as Catholics, we can go visit all Protestant churches. No problem with that. I've been to many of them. I know pastors. I know a lot. Geez. I mean, some of them know me by my first name. But the problem with this particular church is, again, manipulation, control, the infective nature of it, because it's not just you that it's going to infect, but your kids, your mother, your father, your sister, your brother. It's going to affect everyone. Why? Well, if I can't bring my kids to see my own parents because they're Catholic, that means that we have a problem in the household. But see, this is stuff where you got to talk to her or him now, not afterwards. Just because Honey Bunny looks really sweet and gorgeous doesn't mean that they're gorgeous inside. There are a lot of women out there I've dated quite a few. I'll be honest. I have. I've been divorced 21 years, and it's just one of those things. I'm a man. I know. I hear your pain. I do. I hear your pain. You meet someone, you fall in love, and that's it. I truly, truly understand that. But you have to go beyond the emotional, go beyond the sensory, you know, the sensory, the visual. See, men look with their eyes and other features. I'm not going to go that far. It's supposed to be a G-rated show. But you know what I'm talking about, and I'm not saying anything untrue. Always understand this about the churches of Christ. Just like the Mormonism and another church I don't want to mention because I have a friend there and she's a really good lady, and she supports me in a lot of ways. But it is what it is. We disagree about some stuff, but these are social cults. Mormonism, the Church of Christ. You have a social cult when social issues are being manipulated and controlled. If you're being controlled whose friends you got to go see, if you're being controlled what beer you got to drink, if you're being controlled what food you have to eat, if you're being controlled what church you have to go to, if you're being controlled what you're going to do tomorrow, there's a problem. There's a major problem there. But I want to go back to Jesus again. All right, I always go back to Jesus. We have to go back to Jesus. I know that it's very easy to go to Paul and the epistles. I don't read Paul to get to Jesus. I read Jesus to get to Paul. And that is how you understand the gospel. You don't understand the gospel through Paul's eyes. You understand Paul through Jesus's eyes. And I defy you to find most churches of Christ preach on the words that Jesus said. I defy you to go and check it out. It's mostly always what Paul said, because you know what? It's easy to get those little quips, those little verses, Paul said this and then now. First of all, one other thing, alone is mentioned only once in the Bible. Well, not in the Bible, but I'll just say after Acts. I'm not sure about the prior. But it's mentioned only once in the New Testament after Acts. And guess what? Paul doesn't say it. It's in the book of James, 2:24, 2:20 to 2:19 to 2. I'm sorry, James 2, chapter 2, verse 19 to 24, I believe. I think it's throughout that whole book, but anyway, it's not a very big book to read. So open up and dust it off and read it. Don't get so high, get another Bud Light and read it. Even if you had 6, who cares? The more you read it, the more you'll remember it. Not by faith alone. Not by faith alone. Now, where Paul is talking about, wish I knew that verse. God, it's in Romans. The favorite passage, he says, you're saved by faith, but he doesn't say alone. He says you're saved by faith, comma, apart from works. What is Paul saying there? He's saying, look, I'm talking to you about faith right now. Works, I'm going to talk to you about that apart. That's a separate issue. Now, even if you use the word apart as it's not necessary or not important with, Paul is not saying works of love, of charity, the way James is describing works. He's using works of the law. I know I read these folks say that works are not the works of the law, like I'm saying, but they are. That's all that Paul teaches very clearly. He's teaching from the Pharisaical understanding. He knows exactly what he's talking about. You're welcome, Selma. You're a very nice girl, too. In fact, she's a real nice girl. She lives real close by to me. All right, so I just see a list of people here that are looking at me here. So again, like I said, I just scratched the surface. But if you want to take if you're gonna have kids, you get married, you have kids, forget about forget about them seeing your parents. Ain't gonna happen, buddy. Not gonna happen. Doesn't matter what she tells you today. When you put that ring on, that's when it really matters. So I would take this very seriously. And if you don't believe me, give me a call. We'll talk. We all talked about the manipulation of cults and that. Again, I'm not saying these are cults in the framework of Jim Jones's People's Temple, because the People's Temple was a very specific cult. It was a cult based on a destructive nature, physically destructive. It killed 900 people. I really hope that your sister shows you that film. You need to see it. You need to see it in color. Powers Booth plays in it. Awesome man. I love that actor. I think I met him one time. I even have an autograph. I have a lot of autographs. I think you guys noticed on my page. Sometimes I break through and I post a bunch of autographs I got. I was in one of the malls one time, and he was there signing autographs, but not on picture, just on one of those cards. But get yourself copies of these pamphlets on what the Church of Christ teaches, because I don't think like I said, I have not scratched the surface. But the most important part that I have scratched was the fact that Church of Christ is not the only word in the Bible, not the only phrase. Acts 9:31. Memorize it. They're going to ask you this. Where is the Catholic Church in the Bible? Acts 9:31. And if they ask you, I can't find it, then tell them you don't know Greek. And in some cases, it won't appear in the New Greek. There's Old Greek and New Greek. So be very careful sometimes when they show you a book or when they show you a source. Yeah, be very careful about this. I have to really talk to you about this. Be very careful when someone shows you words that are, the original Greek. They're most likely not original Greek. The original Greek is different. Sometimes slightly, sometimes very big, very much, from the newer Greek. Okay? Don't let people deceive you. The Catholic Church is in the Bible. The word Catholic Church is in the Bible. So the answer is there. Again, bada boom, bada bing, bada bam. You got it. You got to learn these basic small little things, because how are you going to defend yourself? How are you going to teach your kids? How? Of course, when you get married, don't even think about teaching them Catholic, because you're not going to be able to. Trust me. Your mother, their grandmother, is not going to be able to take them to church on Sunday. Forget about getting them baptized. They're not going to get baptized. They're no longer under your control. You think they are, but they're not. They're under the control of the Church of Christ. I wish I wouldn't say that so much, because I'm using the word. I feel like I'm saying the Lord's name in vain, but I'm not, because God knows I'm trying to present a teaching here. Be very aware of what you are presenting and who you are presented with. It's interesting because they have what's called the Churches of Christ have what's called they believe that the Bible is their only creed, really. So, what creed is that? Well, think about it. What creed is that? Whatever creed they want you to believe it is. And remember, when they talk, they're talking with the voice of the apostles. They have apostles. They're beyond what we believe is apostolic succession. There is no apostolic succession. There was nothing passed before 1830. There was a lot of confusion because of Luther. Thank you, Luther. You really did it, didn't you, this time? So he blew it. And I'm going to call a spade a spade. And if there are some Lutherans that don't like it, I'm sorry. It is what it is. I'm kind of worried because I have a girlfriend who's, well, not a girlfriend, but there's a girl that I'm getting to know, and she's Lutheran. So I'm really going to be in trouble after this one, but I hope not. But at least Lutherans don't control. I can go and be a Catholic. Well, it can be difficult when you're, even with Protestantism, when you're marrying someone out of your faith and want to rear them in the Catholic faith. I think it is a difficulty, and it's something that you really have to think about. It's very serious. If you're 50 like me, well, I'm going to be 52 in 2 days. April Fool's Day. Bravo, right? So it's true. It's true. It's a very difficult thing. Not easy. I think the priests, the Father Joshua Allen that joined us, I think priests have a difficulty too in a way. Because when you're marrying mixed marriages, you know, priest knows what issues can arise. And I was going to go into the priesthood. I was. Papers were signed, everything was ready to go. I was going to whisk right in, and somebody else whisked me out. Being truthful. We get distracted. We men get distracted. We need good discernment. I'm giving it to you right now. Giving it to you, buddy. You know who you are. You know exactly who you are. You need to wake up. No, not smell the coffee. Really wake up. Like out of bed, out of your dream. It's hard. It's very hard. Trust me, it is. I know. I feel your pain. But I bet you that if you asked your sister, I bet you she would find you someone real good. She'd help you out. You know, women have a way of getting into these things they call packs. They visit each other's friends and stuff, and you'd be surprised how many friends she probably has. You'd be surprised how things can work out that you don't even know. And sometimes getting on your knees doesn't help. It doesn't hurt either. Sometimes saying the rosary is probably well, not sometimes, all the time. It's very good. Learn some of these things. I know the rosary's long. I don't say it every day. I'll be honest with you. I don't say I should be. I don't, it's one of those things. The Chaplet of Divine Mercy is shorter. Say it. Don't be ashamed. Say it. Now, I want to cover, we're hitting into 1 hour, so I guess we got maybe another half hour to go. I don't think we got that much more. The biggest other point that I want to address is, where did the Bible come from? Ask your girlfriend or boyfriend, where did the Bible come from? Did it fall out of the sky? Seriously? Well, I know she's not going to tell you that, or he. But I think you know who I'm talking to. So the Bible did not fall out of the sky. I wonder what they're going to say. Well, God gave it. He passed it along. It was all present in the first century. Really? There were over 300 New Testament books passed around the churches in the first century. 300. Over 300. There were church fathers fighting over some books. The Proto-Evangelium, the Didache. They wanted all those books in the canon of the scriptures. Do you know how long it took for that to be organized? 400 years after Christ. 400 years, not 30 days. Jesus didn't lay out a whole list of books from the table of contents and say, you know what, it's going to be this, this, and this, and this. No, it was the church. Ecclesia Catholicos, the Catholic Church, that decided what books were going to be in the Bible. You know what year that was? Take a guess. You should know that. You went to a Catholic school, didn't you? 397 AD, not 1830 AD. 397 AD, after 3 councils, I believe. Father will correct me, I'm sure. It was the Council of Hippo, a Council of Rome. These are local councils, by the way, not ecumenical councils. The Council of Carthage discerned and codified. These are the books. And you know what? It's not 66. It's 73. Because we're not following the old law again. You know, we're always told, you Catholics believe in all these works. You follow all these works. You have so many saints. Too many saints. You Catholics have too many saints. Well, I think that we need to start learning the basics. We need to start learning where the Bible came from. It didn't come from the churches of Christ. I can guarantee you that. I can bet my life on that by simply opening the encyclopedia. Go ahead. Don't be shy. It ain't going to bite you. The encyclopedia won't either. Go encyclopedia.com. You got it on your cell phone right in front of you, next to your beer, I'm sure, or pizza. Look it up. The Council of Carthage. I'll post it, in fact, to help you out. 73 books. Oh, sure, Jerome. I know the Protestants, I know that the churches of Christ too, they will argue the point that, well, you know, but there were fathers of the church after that disputed some of the books and that. So what? So what? I dispute a lot of things Pope Francis says. Does that mean I'm a heretic? No. I'm allowed to. I can question. See, in the Catholic Church, we can dispute. We can talk about something. We don't act like robots. We're not dummies. We're not robots. We're human beings. God gave us an intellect so we can think about something. Think and do it and act on it. We're not robots. The churches of Christ would have you believe that you're a robot. You're going to do what they tell you to do. So marry that girl. Have your children. They're not going to go see their parents. They're not going to go see their parents on Christmas, but that's not the only time they're not going to see them. Watch. Well, I hope not, but she could say to you, sorry, my church says I can't bring our children to see I don't know, Kathy, or your sister, your brother, your mother. They're Catholic. Well, if they're Catholic and you can't bring your children to see your parents, you got a big problem, buddy. You got a big problem, because according to these documents, whatever she or he tells you, you cannot bring your children to your family. It's poison ground. Now, the Campbells, which founded, they're going to tell you they didn't found, they did. Look in your own encyclopedia and you'll see. It was the Campbells, which was actually their names. I have to look it up. I don't want to take your time from that, but it was, well, there were several. There was James O'Kelly of the Methodist. By the way, you know what really is interesting? A lot of these social cults, they originated from Protestant churches. Ain't that a kick in the butt? Yeah. I wouldn't, I'm sure that a lot of heretics originated from the Catholic Church. It's true. Take a look at this one. I mean, look at in 1793, James O'Kelly of the Methodist Episcopal Church withdrew from the Baltimore conference of his church and called upon others to join him in taking the Bible of the creed. Oh, I'm sorry, in taking the Bible as the only creed. So now they're manipulating something else. They're changing things. You see how easy it is to change something? Very easy. Then you have in 1802, a similar movement among the Baptists in New England arose, was led by Abner Jones and Elias Smith. They were concerned about the word denomination. That was in, I guess, the 19th century, 1802, right? So then you had Presbyterian preachers, started by Thomas Campbell and Alexander Campbell. I guess they were, Thomas Campbell was his son, Alexander Campbell. Geez, I wish I knew more about this than I know already. So these men did not, they didn't advocate starting a new church. No one did. Luther didn't either, he claimed. But they did in the end, didn't they? Why? No, Luther didn't claim to start another church. But he did, didn't he? Thomas Campbell says he didn't claim that he wanted to found another church, but he did, didn't he? They didn't advocate a new church. This is taken from the Church of Christ, someone who wrote a little synopsis on the beliefs. I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to embarrass him. So what does the Church of Christ believe about the Bible? Well, I gave you a little bit of that information right now. I mean, I think that asking where did the Bible come from is the best way to start a conversation. Where else would it be? It's a very central thing that people argued about in the 16th century. Where did the Bible come from? Why 66, not 73? Why 73, not 66? Well, I told you why 73, not 66, because the Council of Carthage decided on the various books. And you know what is really interesting? The link that I'm going to give you at the bottom of my page on the post after I'm done, the people that actually did that honest work were none other than Protestants. And Bible researchers they're called. And I congratulate them. I don't agree with the entire group of what they have to say, but when they talk about the Council of Carthage and the books of the Bible that it codified, they're right on the mark. And that's what you need to take to the court of your friend, girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever friend. So I think I've pretty much given you as much as I can without having to, I don't know what happened there, without having to bore you to death. It's already 1 hour and 4 minutes. I didn't think I was going to be that quick. But I think the basic tenets is control, manipulation. I could get into all this, all the, you know, the basic teachings of what they believe in that. I mean, you could find it online. I mean, that's not difficult. But the fact is, the interesting thing is, and this is where they get that control over you. They believe that apostasy can occur over 2 millennium. But you know it, you know as well as I do now, at least, that Matthew 16, 17 to 19 or 18, I believe, says otherwise. Jesus doesn't lie. And the gates of hell will not prevail against the church. It meaning the church. In other words, powers of hell will try. They're trying right now. You think they ever stop? Pope Benedict intervened actually recently, which he's not, you know, he's an emeritus. I don't know why. That's kind of puts Pope Francis in a jam there, you know, because here we got Pope Benedict calling one of the German theologians almost literally a heretic. Well, you know, it's usually the Pope's job, who's on the job, but Pope Benedict is, hey, still Pope. I don't know. That's really confusing to me, but it's interesting. He's retired. He doesn't have the authority to do anything about that, but he can certainly speak. Nobody says a retired pontiff can't speak. That certainly puts the person that's ruling the church at the time in a bad way. But we're not going to go there because I'm just trying to show you that men have risen up. God raises men up. Men and women. Men and women. Read about Catherine of Siena. Read about Catherine of Siena. You know what she did? She withstood the Pope to the face. In fact, she withstood several cardinals to the face. If I'm not mistaken, she's a doctor of the church today. Or at least she's a great saint. I think she's a doctor of the church, because if not, I'm going to be pretty embarrassed to regret saying that to you, that she's not. But I think the fact of the matter is that she helped bring, after her death, the Avignon papacy, which was basically where you had 3 or 4 popes at one time. That came to an end. That Western schism was healed because Jesus intervened and brought a woman named Catherine above. And I'm giving you these examples to show you that the church never went away. The church was always there. So whoever you're dating has a little bit of a misguided understanding about what the church is. The church is the pillar and foundation of truth. Read 1 Timothy 3:15. Read it. Don't be shy. 1 Timothy 3:15. Why don't you, before you read, ask her, who is the pillar and foundation of truth? What is the pillar and foundation of truth? She'll tell you, well, the Bible, of course. Well, you got her now, because the 1 Timothy 3:15 says the pillar and foundation of truth is the church. Ain't that a kick in the head? It ain't the Bible. Just use your head. God gave you a head. This head, okay? Use it. Use your sensory perception. And understand that sometimes it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be mistaken. the most important thing is what I have given to you in this video. And I'm not, I'm not perfect. I don't have all the answers to everything. I probably don't even have all the answers to this topic. I wanted to prepare and give you as much as I can. There's a really good book, and I wanted to make sure you know about it. It's by Bruce Sullivan. He was a former Church of Christ member. You should read that book. I think your sister or your brother or whoever, I'm not going to try to give it away here, because you know who you are. I think you need to get that book. You need to read it. It's a very small book, not this big. Promise you won't regret it. Because you know what? You're getting the information from the horse's mouth. You're not getting it from me. Oh, you know what? You talk to a bunch of Catholics. That's what she or he will tell you. But if you get it from a former member who will actually examine the truths and beliefs, he's not gonna lie. Yeah, I agree. There are former Catholics, but they mostly always lie. They always exaggerate. Because I've listened to countless testimonies of theirs, and if you compare, former Catholics members and experiences of theirs to the former converts who come back to unity with Rome, they already know what they've experienced. They know they experience all the splinters, the confusion. Oh, this one believes this way, this one believes that way, this one believes this way. Now they meet the Church of Rome, who believes in all of them. Basically, in some perspective. I mean, obviously not literally all of them, but kind of gathers them together, and sort of tries to, sift the nuts from I'm talking about nuts you eat. From the good fruits. So I would encourage you to read that. You could look it up. It's called "Will the True Church of Christ Please Stand Up" by Bruce Sullivan. So I mean, this is something that I really think that you need to look over, because all of this, all of what Church of Christ believes, all started from the American Restoration Movement, or what they call the Stone Campbell Movement, named for its two most prominent historical figures, Barton W. Stone and Alexander Campbell. You could take that to the bank. I'm reading it right from history. The movement, interestingly enough, which was supposed to be that restorative movement, right? To eliminate all confusion and all separation and division, soon became a divisive one, splitting into three separate denominations: the Disciples of Christ, the independent Christian churches, and the Church of Christ. The Disciples of Christ emphasized the movement's early theme of Christian unity, downplaying doctrinal issues, whereas the independent Christian churches and Churches of Christ tend to emphasize the theme of restoration, according to them, right? Now, if I told you that, according to me, the Cubs are going to win the World Series, are you going to believe that? No, I don't think so. You're going to watch the games to find out. You're going to stay tuned. Why don't you put everything on pause and stay tuned? All right? Maybe that'll help. Stay tuned. See, the real Church of Christ is the Catholic Church, and it's no denomination. Let me explain to you what denomination means. Denomination has to denominate from somewhere. You have a sister and a brother. They came from somewhere. They just didn't fell from the sky. They were given to God through your parents. The Catholic Church doesn't have a denomination. I know there are Protestant ministers who argue that point with me, but it doesn't. Yeah, I know Eastern Orthodox is going to climb into the hem-hole and will try to argue the point that, yeah, they're from us, and these are from them. Well, if that's the case, then, well, so be it. That's their opinion. They're entitled to it. But I think I talked about the papacy already, parts 1 and 2, and I laid a very clear foundation that the early church, Eastern Church, Western Church, actually the Eastern Church was louder for the papacy than the Western Church. The Westerners were the ones arguing and bickering over things all the time. The Pope had to decide. What about the whole thesis of Leo's Tome? Eastern bishops would say, Peter has spoken through Leo. Now I know the Eastern Orthodox will have something to say about that, but hey, can't change history. Nope. And some of those quotations, read them. I really encourage you. Take a close look at some of those quotations of the early fathers of the church. Get yourself a 3-volume set. Come on, you can save up $45. Don't tell me you can't. Go to Amazon.com. Type in Jurgens, Jurgens, space, early fathers of the church. Get the 3-volume set. Take a look at it. It's indexed in the back, has all the doctrines of the Catholic Church, and then it gives you the page numbers where you can go back and find the actual quotes. Now, I have to commend the Church of Christ for one thing. They do actually receive the Eucharist every Sunday. We receive it almost at 20 minutes every day, if you think about it worldwide. But but it's also the doctrine. Don't mess with the doctrine. The Church of Christ also does not recognize the validity of even their Protestant counterparts. Baptism. Unfortunately, as do some Orthodox. Coptics, some of them don't recognize the baptism of other Eastern Orthodox. Sad to say. Hey, you know what? I'm calling a spade a spade. Some Eastern Orthodox have 88 canons of Scripture. Some have 73. Some have in between. It's the unity of doctrine that's at stake for you right now. You have an issue here with this friend who's a Church of Christ and who you are in love with. I had a crush on a Jehovah's Witness. I did. When I was 19 years old. She was really nice. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Don't tell me you don't. She confused the hell out of me. I was about this bitty away from becoming one myself. Here I am. By the grace of God go I. Do you know what held me together? For some reason, it was the Mass. I went to those camps. I enjoyed myself. We had a girl section and a boy section. Kind of, I had this crush on her. I couldn't help it. And so I followed her wherever she went. Campgrounds, whether it was camp in the summertime or doing this and that. She was a lovely person. Lovely creature created by God. Gotta tell you that. Beautiful brown hair. Beautiful brown eyes. It was hard. It was tough. So yeah, I had a similar situation. Of course, not getting, too close to your age, but I was 19, and believe me, that's a tough age. So I'm giving you a little personal dimension to this. We all have our crosses that we need to bear. So without further ado, I'm going to try to close up here slowly. Think about it. Think about everything that I've mentioned. Show it to her. Don't be shy. I'm sure your sister or brother can save this video and pass it around, share it around. Hey, I want every Church of Christ member to see it. Seriously. And I'm curious to see what they think about it. Because I don't think I've mentioned anything that was mean-spirited. I think I spoke plainly. I did add commentary. I didn't say they're not Christian. I never said they're not Christian. Others, like my friend Matt Slick, very quick to point out that Catholicism is not a Christian church. I never, ever call anyone who claims to believe in Jesus Christ not a Christian. That is the most sad thing to do, sad thing to say, because we are not here to judge. We aren't. But we are here to clarify. So I'm not going to tell someone that they're not a Christian just because they want to control you and your beer. I'm sorry, I just, I said it like it is. Or your friends. I was married to a Catholic woman in the end. I kind of wonder what it would have been like being married to that brown-eyed gal back in the day, but it didn't quite happen because well, it's another story for another time. But anyway, there's no restoration in the church. Church didn't restore anything. What it caused is more confusion because it created three denominations. Look, you had three denominations already before 1830 got started. After 1830, between 1830 and 1845, three already. So 1830 is supposed to be started with one church. There was supposed to be big restoration. Turned out to be three churches in less than 15 years. So where is the whole point of restoration? Who's restoring who? They have a claim that basically for 2 millennium, the church was in apostasy. True believers were scattered, and that's sort of the same kind of teaching that others have. I think Protestants are a little more honest about it than these folks, but actually, I think the best word is primitivist. You know, primitivists are those who believe that they're restoring the primitive church, the early church. They're called primitivists. Some primitivists, some I can't even pronounce the word. I can't believe it. I never heard of it before. Some primitivists that created 3 churches in 15 years. What do you think about that? Big restoration movement, isn't it? Started with a bunch of good intentions and ended up pretty bad, because after that we still had problems. So I'm going to leave this kind of at your feet, have you think about it. I think I left you a few points to think about. I think the biggest thing is the Catholic Church is in the Bible. You ask the question, where did the Bible come from? Why 66 books instead of 73? And why don't they call the 3 persons of the Trinity the Trinity? Because it's not in the Bible. I want to finish this one point. We got an hour and 26 into this. The Church of Christ members will not believe anything that is not explicitly stated in the Bible. If that is the case, I will blow that right out of the water right now. You got a remote control? Turn your television off. Press that little button. Just do me that little, just try it. Press it off. Do you believe that when you touch that button, now this is what you should ask your friend these little experimental questions. When you press that button, do you believe that the television will turn off or it will turn on? If you don't, why are you pressing it? Why don't you just walk over to the television and check it out and see if it'll turn on? You believe that will turn on or off. Is your remote control in the Bible too? That's how silly this thing can get. That's how silly. Everything we do every day is not explicitly in the Bible. Everything. When we get on a bicycle to ride, we know those wheels will turn. We believe in those wheels will turn. We believe those wheels will turn. Is the bicycle in the Bible? I know it's foolish talk, but you know what? It's common sense too. Think about it. And follow my my videos down the road. My next video will probably be, most of these videos will help you in understanding what the Catholic Church truly teaches, not what others tell you it teaches. Because you know what? You can't understand your own faith from somebody else. Now, I know I left a lot of commentary about them, and if I'm mistaken on anything, I ask them to please forgive me and to call me. Tell me where I'm going wrong. Are you or are you not equivalent to the apostles? Do you or do you not tell others they cannot visit anyone who is not a member of the Church of Christ? Yes or no? Very simple question. There's no circular argument there. It's very simple. It starts here and ends here. Remember, if you are having problems now, think about the problems you're going to have when you have children. When you are having problems now, think about your children with this person. Think about your children. You want another church to control your children? You want your children to be emotionally abused for the rest of until they're 18 or whatever? You want them to be brainwashed into thinking that they can't visit their grandma and grandpa? That's why I want you parents to start getting involved. It's not passing the buck around. You need to get involved. You need to start opening your scriptures and your Catholic catechisms and start reading a little more, not blowing things off. Because you know what? If that son or daughter of yours is dating a Church of Christ and they're going to get married, you're never going to see your children again, your grandkids. You gonna be happy about that? I bet not. I bet then you're going to be weeping and crying. Yeah, well, it'll be too late then. Sure will. Now is the time. Now is the time to take a stand, not tomorrow. Tomorrow's too late. It's going to pass. You're going to lose your family. Break them up. In the church, in our faith, I will share. I have a gift that I'm very thankful to God for. I have a gift. Sometimes it's associated with something called empath, EMPATH. I will walk sometimes, or I will take a shower. Excuse me. And sometimes a thought will come into my mind to pray for a particular person. The image of that person, whether they're smiling or whether they're asking, recently had an image like that. The man was a Jehovah's Witness. He was 92 years old. He died about 7 months ago. He was a really wonderful man when I was growing up. Really wonderful man. He was a Jehovah's Witness. And they do not believe that that their soul will live on after death. Well, I was walking one time. Oh, you see those stairs behind me over there? I saw them in my mind. It's a gift. We get all kinds of gifts by God. And the inspiration came to me to pray for his soul, immortal soul, because he was in a place of waiting. Maybe just yeah, all I can tell you is I've had these for a while. You could read about them. Actually, there's a book called Hungry Souls, Amazon.com as well. Hungry Souls. Anyway, this man was, as soon as I said a prayer, inside, the thoughts just went away. I have dreams of people who died looking at me, asking me to pray for them. Sometimes just looking at me, and I know exactly where they're looking at me. I encourage you to get in your Catholic catechism. I encourage you to take a look at this video. If you have to look at it 2, 3, 4 times, I don't care. I'm not saying me. I'm saying the words I spoke to you, the things I said to you. They could all be verified. And so in this, I'd like to end by saying thank you for taking the time to listen. Hope I was able to do the best I can. Um, Wish I could thank the person. I don't want to. I think she knows who she is. I think you all know who I was, trying to, encourage to really get behind this gentleman or whoever, to think good and hard about this. Never marry anyone. Never get into close to anyone who controls you. It's never an authentic relationship. It's only a poisonous apple. So with that, I'll end. So when you see this person, where did the Bible come from?